Hi Team Grade 5, welcome to another edition of Grade 5 Science. My name is Miss Aaliyah Brewster and it's time for us to learn about frogs. That's right, frogs. So much fun. But just in case you're not feeling motivated, remember the words of Marie Curie. Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. So what are you waiting for? Grab a pencil and a notebook, get settled, we're about to start. To begin, we're going to examine the parts of a frog. That's right, the various parts of a frog. On the head of the frog, it has eyes, ears, nostrils, and a mouth. It is also equipped with cool webbed feet for swimming. It has 2 forelegs and 2 hind legs, and its body is covered with bumps. A frog's eyes and nose are on the very top of their heads. This allows them to see and breathe while most of their bodies is underwater. The protruding eyes on the frogs enable them to see in front, to the sides, and even slightly behind them. Their eyes allow them to swallow their food. Each time the frog blinks, they are pulling their eyes down to the roof of their mouth to push the food down their throat. Some of the most common foods that frogs eat are bugs, spiders, worms, slug, larvae, and sometimes small fishes. Frogs can also launch their long legs 20 times their body size. They can leap out of the air almost like a superhero. It's quite amazing. You can see in the photographs. Some frogs like to camouflage, that is, to blend into their environment. You notice that green frog? I bet you can barely see it, but it's there. That green frog that is within a trench, that frog is camouflaging into its environment. It helps the frog to hide from predators or to hide when it's hunting for a prey. Now, some frogs, like poisonous frogs, such as the golden poison frog and dying poison frog, are boldly colored to warn predators of their dangerous toxic skin. So a frog like the poisonous frog you're seeing there, if you touch its skin, it can be very dangerous. You can even die. Like all amphibians, frogs are cold-blooded, meaning their body temperatures change with the temperature of their surroundings. When temperatures drop, some frogs dig burrows underground or in mud at the bottom of ponds, just so that they can keep their body temperature under control. And you can see the frog is doing that in the image there. He's burrowing into the mud. Another cool feature about frog is that, like butterflies, they undergo an astonishing transformation, which is called a complete metamorphosis. As they grow up, they start out as a jelly-like egg that is laid in water. They grow into wiggling tadpoles and finally grow legs suitable for land. And you can see there in the photograph, a frog undergoes a complete metamorphosis. Do you remember what metamorphosis is? But just in case you didn't remember, we can do a quick recap. Metamorphosis is a big word, right? But it is easy to understand if we break it up into smaller words. The first part of that word is meta, which means change. The middle part, morph, means shape. So now we know that it means a change in shape is occurring. The last part of the word, which is osis, means the way a thing happens. So what exactly is metamorphosis? Well, in the context of living things, metamorphosis is the way it changes shape during its life. That's right, it's the way in which living things changes its shape during its life. Now let's move on to discuss the various stages in the life cycle of a frog. As mentioned before, it all starts with an adult frog laying hundreds, not one, not two, not 10 or 20, but hundreds of tiny eggs which clump together in a group known as a frog spawn. You can hunt for frog spawn in shallow, still water or a garden pond, for example. As the frogs lay the eggs lie defenseless. They are usually laid among vegetation as just below the surface of the water to give them some protection. If you're lucky enough to spot some of these strange eggs, pay attention to their shape. Frogs lay frog spawn, which look like round clusters of eggs, while toads lay toad spawn, which comes in long ribbons. In the frog spawn, the baby frogs start out as a tiny black dot. That's right, surrounded by a jelly-like substance. Over time, they become common shaped as their tails begin to develop. It's amazing. After spending 1 to 3 weeks eating the yolk of their eggs, the baby frog hatches into the big wide world. Now the baby frogs are known as tadpoles. They have gills, a mouth, and a long tail, which they need for swimming. You can see in the picture where we have the tadpoles with the long tail and they're swimming about there in the pond. At that stage, they don't have lungs to breathe, so they breathe using gills. After the first week or the second week of hatching, tadpoles won't move around very much as they're still absorbing some nutrients from the yolk of their egg. However, once the yolk is all gone, the tadpoles are big and strong enough to venture out into their watery world. Unlike adult frogs, tadpoles can't go on land, so they feed on plant materials filtered from the water and tear off tiny trunks of nearby vegetation. The legless, waterbound tadpoles slowly change into frogs over the course of the next 14 weeks. First, they grow back legs, then front legs too. Soon after, their body parts start to change its shape and they're able to start eating insects. Next, the tadpole's tail shrinks away. The skin grows over the gills and they develop lungs and eardrums. These are super important to them as they prepare the tadpole for life on land. Once their gills and tails are gone forever, tadpoles undergo one last 24-hour push where their metamorphosis changes completely. Once this stage is finished, the baby frog emerges from the water as tiny adults. And there you have it. The frogs are all grown up and ready to head out into the big world. These adult frogs and toads are much less reliant on water. So long as they stick to the shade and don't dry out, they can live on land. But they often return to ponds and lakes to splash and cool off. But before too long, the females will look for water to lay their own eggs. Once that stage is complete, what a frogtastic life they've led. That has brought us to the end of another lesson, boys and girls. Today we learned so much about frogs. We learned about the various body parts. We also learned about the metamorphosis or the life cycle of a frog. Now it's time for us to go. But I want you to remember the words of Marie Curie. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. That's right. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.